I did not realize he was that smart.
So we got seismology, botany,
Yeah.
horticulture,
Right.
tunnels in Vancouver.
Damn. Yeah, all you do is bet.
Yeah.
He's like, what do you have to offer to the world?
I just bet and wear the same kind of t-shirts.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Yo. What's up? It's Chris Simms. It's Chris Simms Unbuttoned. And not only is it Chris Simms Unbuttoned, it is Bet the Edge with Jay Croucher and Drew Dinsick. My man Ahmed Fareed is here, as always, wearing his red pants.
Yep.
2 podcasts in a row. What a weirdo. Okay, but we'll deal with that some other time. But we're going to have a little fun on this one.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're with 2 experts, right? I'm only an expert at quarterbacking.
Yes.
All right. These guys are experts on telling you how to win money, reading the markets the right way. Ahmed's an expert host, and I'm not going to talk much longer. But one thing I do want to talk about, right, before I hand over the hosting duties to you.
I don't have much to say.
Okay.
But
Whatever, Mr. Plant Guy, what the hell's the phrase they call?
Botany.
Botany.
Seismology
right?
as well.
Seismology,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which seismology really can make your brain go in a
it's a
lot
tough
of weird
one.
ways there. So I won't go there. Okay. But Drew, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm Chris Simms, okay? I'm kind of famous for smoky, puffy. Are you growing any good plants out there?
Oh, good question.
I mean, with the state of legal options.
You sound like hurry up, spit it out.
It's not cost effective to grow your own.
Oh,
Honestly,
he's run the numbers. He's run the numbers.
Yeah, the quality and the accessibility down the street with it doesn't make sense to do it yourself. Honestly.
Damn, so he's just going cost effective. Well, I mean, that makes me think different. You as a botanist, I thought you'd be into the growing of it and how good could I make it? How many crystals and THC levels? How high can I bring it? I'm disappointed in you, Drew. In fact, I'm thinking about cutting you off the show now.
I'm retired from the game.
Okay.
Drew likes
the way it goes. You do it until you see someone that can do it better than you, and then you step aside.
Okay,
and that's the way it goes here.
Drew likes to focus on the seismology. It's like George Costanza with importing and exporting, who likes
Right.
to focus on the exporting. Drew likes to focus on the seismology instead of the botany from time to time.
I got you.
Use big enough words. We have no idea what any of you guys are doing.
No, but I had Drew stuttering there, and he didn't know how to answer that for a second, and I did
That's a win.
enjoy that.
I like that. Well, yeah, this is a joint podcast. So if you're listening on the Bet the Edge feed, you're like, who are these other guys? That's Chris Simms. I'm Ahmed Fareed. We got Jay. We got Drew. So what we're going to talk about for this half hour is kind of bounce some ideas around, like, what are the values out there? And what are the strategies in betting? We're a few months away from the season here. Are there plays to be made? Should you wait until you get closer to the season? So, like, Jay, let's just start there, kind of big picture here. We're going to talk about win totals, odds to make the playoffs, MVP, coach of the year. When you look at all these in general, is it better to sit back and wait right now,
Yeah, the
or is
timing,
now
right.
a time to pounce at some values if you see them?
So I think the big thing there is in terms of when you're going to place your bets, and obviously it's the middle of June. We're still a few months out from the season. It's just thinking what prices are going to move. For instance, say that you like Breece Hall to win Offensive Player of the Year. Breece Hall is the type of player where if he runs for 150 yards in week 1, that price is just going to collapse immediately because he plays in the New York market. He's a big name.
Yep.
Everyone's expecting a big season
They're
for
gonna
him.
jump on the
so
bandwagon.
that's something I would jump on now, as opposed to, say, Nico Collins to win Offensive Player of the Year. If Nico Collins has 110 receiving yards in the first week, the price isn't going to move as much. So that's my big calculation, I guess, is whose price is going to move the most, the quickest, and should I get out in front of that?
Do the preseason affect that for you guys at all? Like, or does the market sway much in the preseason, even though you don't get the amount of attempts and all that? But if they see like Breece Hall break one run in preseason game number 1, does it sway the markets to such an extent where it doesn't quite hold the value?
I think with the preseason in the NFL, it's so difficult now because guys are just in cotton wool. You're not really seeing everyone go all out. I think the preseason is more interesting for like depth chart stuff. So like who's the second cornerback on the Lions, like that type of thing, as opposed to who's going to win awards and things like that.
Trying to tell the future from it.
Yeah.
So Drew, what do you think about that? Just general feeling of the timing.
Yeah, preseason tends to affect prices only in the negative, right? Joe Burrow gets hurt. before he even takes a preseason game snap, and the Bengals price just utterly collapses. And so, in general, if you have a sentiment on a team that's positive, it's not terrible to kind of wait for some of the preseason reps to come and know that your most important player is going to be healthy and available week one. The other kind of part of the calculation for someone like me who plays more sports than just the NFL is there's going to be opportunities to put my money to work all summer long that I don't necessarily want to handicap myself from just a bankroll volume standpoint by not having money available.
Right.
Euro 2024 starts here this week. There's going to be a lot of soccer to bet on. The U.S. Open is going on starting tomorrow. We have the Olympics coming up in a handful of weeks. And so in general, just from a bankroll kind of management standpoint, I try not to put too much into play in the NFL markets that is going to sit there and not get resolved until February.
Yeah.
That said, when you do play into those markets, I'm swinging for the fences, right? There's win totals that are going to be like around pick 'em, right? So, you're betting 100 to win 100 type of stuff. That doesn't really tickle me as much as I can bet 100 to win 3,000 on, a 30 to 1 type of outright that, has a little bit, more utility over the balance of how long it sits in your bankroll. So, for me, strategy wise, when do you play? It kind of depends on the type of player you are. If you're only handicapping and betting the NFL, then by all means, take your shots now before the market gets sharp. Like, there are lots of markets with plenty of liquidity that you can put your money to work right now in the NFL if you don't mind it just sitting there for the balance of the whole regular season.
So when players hold off, basically, you're basically saying, wait, you can wait to the end of the preseason, start to, don't put any money down because that guy might also get hurt in preseason game number 2. Now, okay, but is it the same conversation with teams, right? When you're playing the futures of okay, hey, this playoff odds or a team that can come out of nowhere or anything. Is there a sweet spot there? Do you want to get out in front of it now? Or do you want to weigh in the risk of oh man, everybody's seeing this team and there's buzz about them in preseason and now the odds aren't quite as good? Is it a difference?
Yeah, I think it's just the balance of how much you think the odds are going to move. And then also it's a balance of the more time you wait, the more information that you get.
Yeah.
And it's do you want to wait and take the chance that price stays the same, but you're getting more information to inform your bet? Or do you just think that something is completely wrong? For instance, with the Breece Hall example, I saw that he was 45 to 1 to win Offensive Player of the Year. And so I bet that because to me, that's a ridiculous price. He is projected to have the second best running back stats of anyone in the league outside of Christian McCaffrey. He can't be 45 to 1 to win Offensive Player of the Year. So that's something that I'll bet now, as opposed to say, I think Patrick Mahomes, who's in the plus 600 range to win MVP, that price is just too big. Patrick Mahomes should never be plus 600 to win MVP, in my opinion. He may well go down as the greatest quarterback of all time. He's the best quarterback in the league right now, but is it better off just waiting into preseason and just seeing how the Rashee Rice situation gets resolved, seeing if Hollywood Brown, as is his tendency, if he gets hurt in the preseason, things like that, potentially you can wait a bit there because his price isn't going to get that much shorter.
Ooh, I mean, that's incredible to me, the Mahomes odds. I did not know that.
Which should just be plus 300 every year.
It just doesn't make sense. And I'd be scared. I mean, that would be one you already got me perking up here, because I'm going damn, Mahomes, he's going to watch film from last year and go, damn, I could have been better in this area. Our offense could have been better. They're in this odd thing of we won the Super Bowl and we didn't even play that good last year.
Yep.
To where they could actually have a little edge or chip on their shoulder as long as they don't go to too many events and bask in the glory of fame and everything
which
that.
Which they could do. They were traveling around a lot last year. So, Drew, I mean, let's get right into the MVP because I think that is intriguing with Patrick Mahomes. And we just got done with a podcast where Chris ranked him as his number 1 quarterback going into 2024. Again, surprise, surprise. So, what are your thoughts on the MVP market?
So the massive kind of compounding factor, how do you win MVP? You have to be a 1 seed. In my opinion, if you and this is not really kind of a surprise to the market. Surely, as you see, there are kind of top weighted here, not just players and quarterbacks in particular who we know are going to be good, but on teams that you think can realistically get a 1 seed in their conference. And that's kind of the key there. And so there's really only maybe in total, maybe about 12 players who could realistically win the MVP. They're all quarterbacks. And you have to take some decisions to be made based on price and time of market entry. But, Mahomes being right now 475 is starting to get closer to correct. I completely agree with Jay say that like his fare should start with a 3 pretty much every season that he is healthy, and that the Chiefs in general are prohibitive favorites to win the AFC West. And you can make a case that the AFC West is weaker this year than it was even last year when the Chiefs were able to win with margin. So there are certainly cases to be made for a handful of other players in the top 12. One of the hotter names in the earlier portion of the cycle who has cooled off weirdly, at least in terms of market prices, CJ Stroud. The Houston Texans obviously make a huge splash bringing in Stephon Diggs to help round out their skill position group.
Right.
Their offensive line was brutally injured throughout most of last season.
They were.
It did not matter. A healthy season from that group, and you could have a Houston Texans team that definitely surprises to the good offensively, and led by a second year step forward from CJ Stroud. He would be in the conversation, and then your Josh Allens and your Joe Burrows absolutely belong in the mix as well. If you guys can tell me who gets the 1 seed in the NFC, I would love to know, because that player is certainly going to be in the mix as well.
Well, it seems like there's value there too, Jay, because I think the top 5 quarterbacks on that odds were all AFC quarterbacks, and so there's so much competition. And you got Patrick Mahomes, you got to get over that. Like, if you want to take a shot in the dark on an NFC quarterback, who are you most focusing on?
Well, to me, the most interesting guy in this market is, and I'll set it up by saying, who is the team in the NFL that is most likely to get the 1 seed, and who is the player who's most likely to have the best statistical season at quarterback? I think it's Brock Purdy.
Okay, yeah.
Again, because
Right.
he was minus 250 to win MVP going on into Christmas Day against the Ravens, and he has a 0 out of 10 performance, and you can't win MVP after that. But again, with Purdy, like statistically, he lapped the field last year in terms of the things that normally help you win MVP. And when I'm talking about stats, I'm talking about passer rating and touchdown to interception ratio, passing yards per attempt. And this is the thing that I think is the key with handicapping MVP, is that guys who throw a lot of interceptions, I think they get unfairly criticized. For instance, last year, like Josh Allen, who I think should have finished top 2 in MVP, and I think had a real case to win it, but he finished 5th because he just threw 18 interceptions, and people just overrate interceptions. Like, no one... And
I agree.
It's so loud.
You're preaching to the choir in this group right here.
Here's the thing, is like, a fumble is worse than an interception. Like, and everyone knows, like, his interception, it's a really loud stat. Everyone kind of knew that, Josh Allen has a ton of picks. Does anyone really know off the top of their head how many fumbles Lamar Jackson had? Yeah. Like, a fumble is worse than an interception. An interception is usually further down the field than a fumble is a turnover, right? Yeah. But no one, it just doesn't enter the discourse as much. And so I think that Allen, he's always up against it to win MVP, because picks are just going to be part of his game, because he has to put the team on his back so much, and he doesn't get enough credit for all the good things that he does do, as opposed to the interceptions. So I always have a problem with Allen just at price, even though I think he's clearly the second best quarterback in the league.
Right.
And so Purdy's an interesting one, because he's not a made man like these other guys. Like, no one deep down thinks he's as good.
Is he a real MVP from our thought, right? That's where, like, because you're explaining all these things, and that's I think going to be the problem with Purdy. How much is him? How much is Shanahan? Wait, the offense is really based around Christian McCaffrey to start off of, but Purdy's the quarterback who kind of gets the headlines and all of that. So I'm with you, and I will second you, as Ahmed will tell you, the interception thing. I mean, I'm almost at the point, if you're not throwing enough interceptions, then you're not trying to win the game, right? Whether it was Aaron Rodgers a few years ago and the 45-5 or 48-4, whatever, right? What happened when we got in the playoffs, right? We couldn't pull the trigger on any big throws to win the game. Where Matthew Stafford led the league in interceptions, Super Bowl, won it, right? Brady was up there in those years. We're starting to see that the best quarterbacks in the league are up there because they're being asked to do a lot, and they're making a lot of game-changing plays, and within that, some mistakes are going to happen, to your point.
Look, this is, to me, why Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league, or at least one of the main reasons, is he has such an amazing sense of the game in terms of, look what Patrick Mahomes does on every, 3rd and 17. He throws it up for grabs because he knows that if it gets picked, it doesn't matter because it's a punt at that point, effectively, and he's giving his guys a chance. Now, it's not Allen. Allen does have some bad picks, but it's because he takes chances.
And you said, they don't have a running game. I mean, they haven't had much around him to help him. It's all him.
So much. So with Purdy, I think one thing that gets a little bit lost from last year is that I think a lot of what dinged him was that Christian McCaffrey had the best season of his career in terms of in a winning context. Now, he had some massive years in Carolina, but McCaffrey's just not as likely to have as good a season as last year just because he stayed healthy the whole year, and he's a running back, and he missed like the last game of the season, but at that point, it didn't really matter. So he's not as likely to have as good of a year, so I think he's less likely to steal credit away from Purdy. At the same time, there is the issue where deep down, like, no one thinks Brock Purdy's as good as Mahomes or Allen or even, Burrow, Herbert. If I was to take a look at a long shot, though, in the NFC, Matthew Stafford is like 25-30 to 1 to win MVP. I thought actually last year was the best football he's played in his career. I thought he was a better quarterback last year than when they won the Super Bowl. And he has all these weapons, and he was able to do what he did last year despite Cooper Kupp, not being there or not being at full health. So Stafford is an interesting guy to me because I think he has the talent, and I think that offense has a chance to be the best offense in the league.
I like that. Drew, I want to get your thoughts. We got to hear what Drew has to say about this, like some guys that pop to you, at least as far as down the line guys, or maybe there's somebody at the top of the list that you just think's a slam dunk this year.
Well, I mean, in terms of price and just having been a little bit forgotten about, I'm surprised that people don't think that Trevor Lawrence could put together a better season, considering what we know about him pedigree-wise and the fact that he was hurt. He was like legitimately hurt from mid-season to the end of the year last year, and now you have a little bit softer schedule for the Jags this year, having not won the division, and I think he could be sort of the sleeper among the elite AFC quarterbacks. But there's so many good guys in the AFC right now that I almost certainly have to look at NFC for price. And the team that I'm a little higher on than market, and the team that I think could benefit from potentially the Rams in the absence of Aaron Donald taking a bit of a step back, is the Arizona Cardinals. And team success would almost certainly launch Kyler Murray from where he's kind of currently perceived as sort of the middle of the pack quarterback. If the Cardinals put together some winning football with what looks to be a substantially improved team from a talent standpoint, then Kyler Murray's odds could shorten pretty aggressively. Now, I don't ultimately think they could get the 1 seed or win the NFC West, but just in terms of like a value play that you're going to kind of scoop liquidity almost immediately with the team surprising to the good, it's the Cardinals and Kyler Murray for me.
So I am hurt. I am pained. We have gone this whole time, and my guy Jared Goff's name has not even been mentioned one time in this whole discussion. I mean, they could legitimately be the 1 seed.
I was going to bring him up for you. Don't worry.
Why
I was going to get
you,
there.
Though? I don't.
What's your logic there? Thoughts? Either one of you guys on that one.
So I think Goff is in this range with Purdy, and I think Goff and Purdy maybe have better pedigree than Tua Tagovailoa at this point, where I just don't think people think of them as MVP-level quarterbacks. But the thing is, and the same reason why I think Purdy would have won MVP last year if he played better against Baltimore and they won that game, is that sometimes you have a statistical and team case that's just undeniable. Like, I don't think anyone thought Matt Ryan was the best quarterback in the league in 2016. Everyone would have taken Rodgers or Brady, but he just had the best season. And so with Goff, like, here's the big thing. One, he's playing 14 games indoors, which is very big for Jared Goff, because your boy doesn't like the cold, Ahmed. And then the second thing is that I thought he played at an MVP level statistically last year, outside of this bizarre 4-week stretch where he had these 2 games against the Bears and that Thanksgiving meltdown against the Packers. Outside of that, his stats were awesome. And so there is a chance that he needs to just avoid those type of stretches again, and they would need to get the 1 seed certainly. But I mean, we forget, like, Jared Goff's the number 1 pick. Like, he makes all the throws. It's just that he does occasionally just have these kind of meltdowns.
And he's not sexy or cool maybe as some of the other guys. But no, I listen.
Look, he's absolutely on the short list, no question. And he would have been the guy who would have been banging the table, make the case for it. But the schedule actually throws some cold water on him. They finish with an absolute brutal stretch of Green Bay, Buffalo, Chicago, and at San Francisco on Monday, December 30th. If he loses, 2 of those games, even if he has an MVP case to that point, they'll hold that against him, right? It'll be like, oh, well, he couldn't beat the Niners on Monday Night Football when we were all watching Week 17. He can't be the MVP, right? So I think there are definitely kind of specific games towards the end of the season where he could go in as the favorite, a la Brock Purdy 2023, and come out as an afterthought.
Let me just hit two thoughts. Just because we're in quarterback world, and I'd love
this is your world.
I think Burrow. Like I know the value's not great, but I'd say watch out for Joe Burrow. I think the Bengals are going to kind of be on a team on the mission this year. He's on a mission to be healthy, and of course we know how good he is, right? And we know he's the only guy that slays the beast of Mahomes right now.
Yeah. I think he's more likely to win than Stroud or Allen.
I would say too. Stroud, listen, it's hard to, again, it's like, can he do that again? I think that's why, you and Drew both talked about like the surprise of where he was in the markets. It's just like, hey, it's a second-year guy. It's, hey, everybody in the conference and the divisions got to study their offense a little bit. Can they regain that magic? The schedule is going to be harder. Damn, he's talking to a lot of people and saying things in the offseason that are going to, bother people in the NFL. Is he going to have a little bit of a bullseye on him? Those are the things I wonder. But there's another name on this list because you guys said the NFC thing. And Jordan Love is the one that I'm going to throw out just as my curveball one or my, just because I think their team is extremely talented, right? If Jordan Love doesn't throw the 2 interceptions at the end of the game last year, they outplayed the 49ers. They're that kind of talent of a team. They will push the ball down the field. They got the talent around them. So from all the things that Dre and Drew have preached to us, right, about number 1 seed team, stats, he was second in the NFL, I believe, in touchdown passes last year, right? He's one that I look at to go, if I had some extra change in the couch cushion, I would do it on him.
So at this point, we have mentioned just about every quarterback in the NFL. So do with that what you will and for your betting purposes here. I want to kind of go because it's so fascinating because it is narrative. It's like, what's the talk around him? Is he supposed to be doing this? Is it because of him that this team is succeeding? Let's go over to Coach of the Year and what the narratives are for that right now, because I'm still mad that my guy Dan Campbell did not win last year. Kevin Stefanski ended up winning Coach of the Year, but so much end of the year goes into it. So Drew, I'll start with you on this one. When you're looking at early Coach of the Year, what's top of mind for you?
Yeah, so this one is even more fun to kind of go through process of elimination. It is very straightforward to kind of cross out some teams that will do well. High confidence that the Chiefs will win games this year.
Right.
I am perfectly fine putting a black Sharpie through Andy Reid's name in this market, just on the basis of if he does well, it's not going to surprise anyone.
Yeah,
and
nobody cares.
There's an element of surprise. There's an element of overachievement that comes into this particular award, which is why I'm honestly surprised that the top of this list is McDaniel, includes McDaniel and Campbell. And actually, this might be last year's numbers.
Is that Raheem Morris is supposed to be 3, or are we going off of last
we don't
year's?
need Arthur Smith anymore. That's right.
But just in general, like if you think of what's the rubric for Coach of the Year, you got to have at least 10 wins. And you got to, in some way, surprise the world in terms of your team accomplishments. Now, it doesn't need to be, in my opinion, you don't have to get the 1 seed. You have to get the playoffs, obviously. But you just have to overachieve in terms of wins. And there's a little bit of a new wrinkle in terms of what Stefanski did to get across the line, and that he did it with in the face of injuries, and that's completely unpredictable. So I think you just have to toss last year's result out. Okay. And I think you would kind of zero in on a handful of teams this year who could potentially go from outside looking in terms of a playoff appearance, and in particular do it with in the face of uncertainty or doubt, the clear and again, this is a weird one certainly, and bear with me here, but I've made 2 bets in the Coach of the Year market. One of them is a team that I agree with Chris Simms. The Bengals to me look like a team that is 100% going to be in the mix to get a 1 seed in the AFC, and if that happens, I think Zac Taylor is going to be in the discussion. His odds were at 1.30 to 1, which I find laughable because in general the chances for the Bengals to get the 1 seed are somewhere in like the plus 900 range, and if the Bengals get the 1 seed, Zac Taylor is going to be in the discussion. And then in the NFC, I'm kind of cool on everyone right now in the NFC East. And I look at what they have in terms of talent on the offensive side in Washington, and I'm scratching my head thinking, could Dan Quinn get this team to a playoffs if in general the Cowboys have a down year, if the Eagles defense is not fixed by some of their personnel acquisitions? I do not hold the Giants up as a contender at all. And honestly, the price for Dan Quinn to take home this award is better than the price for the Commanders to win the NFC East. And so if that happens, is he going to be at the top of everybody's ballot? I think almost certainly. There is a little bit of a premium for the voters on a new coach, somebody who is taking over and who does something unexpected. And so I think I'm going to try to capitalize on some of my doubt and uncertainty in the NFC East by taking a little Dan Campbell.
I like that because the bar is lower. MVP, you got to win the most games of anyone in your conference. You got to have a successful season. So those were last year's odds there because Arthur Smith is no longer. That's okay. This is Pete, our producer, just messed up. And if you're not familiar on Bet the Edge podcast with our producer Pete, now you know him. He just messed up that graphic.
Yeah, we need to actually have like odds where go what part of the pod will Pete up, right?
That's not
and
fair.
Let's bet on that.
That's not fair. That's not fair.
I think
taking it off
like
the board.
that action. You gotta.
So wait. First of all, can you go through who are the favorites right now
please.
according to your odds here?
So the favorites right now. So Raheem Morris, Matt Eberflus.
Eberflus is the one that jumps out to me.
So.
Right.
Those guys, Shane Steichen is up there. Jim Harbaugh is another obvious one. And so I think the big thing with this market is that for the most part, the point to start if you're handicapping it is the big thing is that superstar quarterbacks take credit away from their coach because you just don't know where the credit should go. This is why Matt LaFleur never won with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, even though he was always among the favorites. You get to the end of the season, it's like, am I going to vote for Matt LaFleur who's got Aaron Rodgers, or am I going to vote for Mike Vrabel who got the 1 seed with Ryan Tannehill? I'm going to vote for Mike Vrabel. So that is the big thing where that's a big thing that you have to overcome to win the award. So in terms of guys who could do that, if the Panthers make the playoffs with Dave Canales and he fixes Bryce Young, that's an easy one. Matt Eberflus, if they go from last in the division to winning the division, that's another easy one. Raheem Morris, I don't really get entirely because I think everyone kind of expects that team to just be a lot better naturally.
Right.
Same with like Robert Saleh. Is he going to be? He's 11-1 Saleh. Is he really going to get all of the credit, or are people just going to think the roster is loaded and Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback?
Exactly. Right.
So if you go a bit further down the board, I look at some names like, I know we mentioned Dan Campbell before, and there's some 25-1 around about Dan Campbell. He's 15-1 at DraftKings. With Dan Campbell, if the Lions get the 1 seed and have the best season in your franchise's history, Ahmed, is he just a write-off already? Does everyone just think that the Lions are too good already, or is he not going to get some of the credit for, I guess the 3-4 year journey?
I feel like he didn't get it last year. He's not going to get it this year.
I know, but last year the Thanksgiving game just sunk him last year because it was so bad and it was such an embarrassment that if they get the 1 seed, I wouldn't completely write him off. And the other thing too is Kyle Shanahan just never going to win Coach of the Year?
I was just going to say, you just talked about the quarterback thing, and I want to go, there's the exact opposite situation.
He's 40-1.
He doesn't ever get credit for it.
Everyone thinks he's the best coach in the league.
Right. Nobody thinks Brock Purdy's the top 3 talent in football, but everybody's trying to tell me he's a top 3 quarterback in football.
The Niners are shorter than 40-1 to go 15-2. If he goes 15-2 and they're the clear best team in the league, is he just never going to win? He's never won the award.
I don't get. Listen, I know he's my friend, and I'm biased about that one. But I promise you, I was sitting there when you were talking and going, what does Shanahan have to do to ever win the damn award?
It's like the Mike Tomlin effect too. It's like after a while, you are just the guy who wins, and so you have to. I don't know what you do if you're Mike Tomlin, if you're Kyle Shanahan, if you're one of those guys.
I would make the favorite in this award Jim Harbaugh, just because it's such an easy narrative. The Chargers were a mess under Staley towards the end. If they right now, his Coach of the Year odds are 3 times their price to win the division. If he wins the same division that Patrick Mahomes is in, then Jim Harbaugh is very likely a Coach of the Year.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So let's do one more here, and Drew, let's finish with this because I think this is one of the most fascinating things. Is we know what's going to happen every year, that there's going to be a team that did not make the playoffs last year that will make the playoffs this
my
year.
Favorite,
and Chris,
right
this
here.
is your favorite. So maybe Chris, why don't you start this one off, because we've talked about some of these teams. We've talked about the Bengals. They're the clear, easy, obvious answer right now for the team that was left out of the dance last year to make it, and they are the favorite right now. They're minus 260, best odds right now of the teams that did not make it. But as you can see, we do have, according to DraftKings right now, 4 teams who did not make the playoffs last year who are favored to get in. You got the Bengals, you got the Falcons, you got the Jets, and you got the Bears.
Yeah, this is the one. I'm a novice, right? I'm not in these guys' class as far as gambling or where to go or anything. This is the one every year though that I always look at Drew and Jay and I go, I was telling people on the pod, watch out for this team back in May. I wish I would have put a little money on it. right? And get into that conversation. So, that's the one that excites me, that I feel like I would want to bet, right? And I honestly think I'm getting to the point in my life where I might start doing some of this. But before I talk, I want to hear you guys first.
Right,
I want to hear Drew first and where he thinks here.
So all 7 of these teams, I don't have a strong exception of them making the playoffs. I'm a little cooler on the Chargers than the market.
Yeah.
But you got to make some decisions on the likes of the Bengals, Falcons, and Jets, in my opinion. Where do you want to lay this price this time of year, or do you just want to bet them to win their division? I think all of the AFC South teams to me look very good.
Right.
Jaguars, Colts, clearly in the mix to get a wild card,
right?
If not, topple Houston for the South. And so because that's that top of that division is crowded, taking a bet to win to make the playoffs, kind of insulates you from just missing out on a division title, but still getting in as a wild card. Whereas with the Jets and the Falcons, you're almost certainly better off just betting to win division, in my opinion, because there is a little bit of a gap between those teams and the rest of the contenders in their division. Bengals, similarly, like it's perceived as a little bit of a cluster at the top because the Ravens won last year, but I have the Bengals rated as the best team in that division, and I would take them to win the North over laying a price like minus 240. The kind of the real weird ones that I think are worth a little bit of a longer shot price. I mentioned before the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals could surprise and pick up a wild card in the NFC.
I don't disagree with you there.
3-1-ish to make the playoffs is a fun bet for them.
We saw great coaching and they improved their roster. So I hear you. Arizona would be in my short list. I'm with you there. Go ahead.
And then the Commanders, who, again, like I don't think they're in any way a chance of getting in as a wild card, but could steal a week or just an off year in the NFC East. And at that price, you got to think hard. Do I want 10-1 for the Commanders to win the East, or would I rather have more like a 20-1 on a Dan Quinn Coach of the Year? And that's where I lean towards Coach of the Year for him.
Yep. Another one I'd throw out.
Yeah, please do.
And look, some of these teams, like the Bengals, obviously very likely to make the playoffs.
Yeah, right.
Teams like the Jets, who are so high variance, I don't feel great about betting the Jets at minus 160 to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like if you believe in the Jets, I'd rather just bet on them at plus 1,300 to win the AFC because that kind of rides more of the upside and variance. One team that's interesting to me, the Vikings are plus 300 to make the playoffs. They're your team? Yeah. This team last year was 7-6, and then they just melted. But they spotted like 50 different quarterbacks. Justin Jefferson missed half the year. They were dealing with injuries. They're extremely well coached, both on offense and defense.
100.
They have talent. And the good thing with the Vikings is that, the quarterback situation, it's not stable. We don't really know. But they have 2 cracks at it, right? Like maybe McCarthy is good. And if he's not good and he's not playable, then Sam Darnold, I think, can be fine enough with the weapons that he has around him.
Better than any of the guys they had playing last year, not named Kirk Cousins.
I mean, what was going on last year with like Nick Mullins? It was an adventure. The last month of the season, like
it's
no one
400
had any
yards,
idea.
but maybe 9 interceptions to go along with it.
No one had any idea where the ball was going with Mullins. And then like Jaron Hall was starting like key games in prime time against the Packers at the end of the year. He wasn't ready. I don't know why they didn't start Josh Dobbs towards the end of the season with how kind of flawed Mullins and Hall were looking. And I know he had the 3-0 game against the Raiders, but still, I mean, that situation was a mess. So Darnold should be better than that. McCarthy has upside. They expect a healthy year from Justin Jefferson. You still have a good offensive line, and you have an incredibly well-coached defense. Like that team, I don't think they're going to win the division because I think the Lions and the Packers are better, but could they sneak into a wild card? I think absolutely.
Yeah, that was my team, right? I mean, the Bears have been my team throughout this, but obviously the betting public thinks the Bears are going to be...
Yeah, it's a little bit like the Bears are minus 120 to make the playoffs. I think that it's weird because I think their offense is actually going to be better than their defense because their defense last year was extremely dependent on turnovers, which regress year to year. The other thing with the Bears, too, is that people are building up Montez Sweat like he's Myles Garrett. Montez Sweat's great.
He's
not Myles Garrett.
No,
he's not Micah
not
Parsons. He's not going to revolutionize your defense. It's just that he's a lot better than what they had previously.
Right. Their D, though, I think I will say, I think you watch out for it. I think it is real. I do think it's real. But again, hey, we know it's rookie quarterback, and there's a lot that goes there. You're right about that. I just am surprised that people think it's such a for sure thing.
More than 50%.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of shocking. Yeah. The Minnesota thing, I do want to piggyback off on you because I think you made the right points. I mean, first off, these two guys, either one, whoever plays, they can play quarterback, and we know what this guy can do with quarterback. They're going to make offense work. He'll manage McCarthy the right way if he's got to play J.J. McCarthy. And J.J. McCarthy, as we talked about, one of the beauties of him coming out of Michigan is he's been playing pro football basically with that offense and the way they play. And then they've added to their team. Yep. They had a really great free agency. They did pretty good in the draft, right? The defense wasn't super talented, and they've added a lot of players to the unit. And, of course, like Jay said, it's not only O'Connell on the offensive side of the ball and what he does coaching, but Brian Flores is one of the best defensive minds in the game. They would be a one where, I wouldn't want to bet him to win the division, but I could certainly see him making the playoffs.
They have guys who I think go a little bit under the radar, like Jonathan Grenard.
Exactly,
he's not a big name. He was awesome last year.
Exactly.
Andrew Van Ginkel was really good last year.
Good player.
Not many average football fan could pick him out on the street type of thing. So I think that the defense is a little bit underrated, and Flores is so good that that side of the ball should be solid, and then they have upside on offense.
Okay, all right. Last thing, I'm going to go around the table here. I want the one thing that you have to get onto this pod that we can look back on in 5 months and be like, I remember when Drew said that on the pod.
Oh, man.
That was pretty. You remember when he said that?
Yeah, right.
He called it.
So you want the one?
Exactly. So Drew nailed the Ravens division last year.
He nailed that one.
That was on this podcast.
Right.
So see, we're already doing it. So Drew, we'll start. We'll put you under the spotlight.
We're doing one bet, one thing that we think, or one
just
call,
prediction,
just one prediction.
or call, or
Okay, all right.
However you want to take it here.
I wish you would have told me
go
this
right
before.
back to
I know. I just thought of it.
Thank you.
And I don't have to do it because I'm the host.
So I was gonna say you lead it off since it's your
Lions
idea.
will win the Super Bowl. That was easy for me. Super Bowl champion Detroit Lions.
It was that was an interesting conversation listening to you guys talk about the Vikings, and it really just kind of goes to show the NFC North is absolutely stacked.
It is. It's stacked.
All four of those teams. I think really that's why I pivoted away from the quarterbacks in that division for MVP. Anyway, prediction for me, I'll go right back to the well in the AFC North. This year's AFC North champion is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. They have wins in pocket against the Ravens based on schedule alone. Their fourth place opponents compared to the Ravens' first place opponents is a delta of about 1.5 wins. So in my opinion, they are starting the season with a 1.5 lead on your most likely divisional opponent in the Ravens. I could make a very strong case that the Browns defense is going to be just as good as last year, but I am not a buyer in Deshaun Watson, and I think the Steelers are going to take a massive step backwards, even though they may have kind of upgraded at the quarterback position. Still a lot of problems with that offense. So for me, it is the Bengals at anything better than plus 180 is a bet for me.
Stick with what works, the AFC North.
I'm going to stick with what works for me too, and I'm going to stick with quarterbacks, and I'm jumping on the Drew bandwagon here. But I'm going to just go with Burrow as MVP. That's right. It just, to me, feels like that kind of year. And, of course, hey, I know the human, right? I know that culture out there. And Drew's talking about, hey, the team, you guys have talked about the number 1 seed or whatever. And there's one where I don't even know if they have to be the number 1 seed. If they were a really good number 2 and Joe still had a phenomenal year, I think he probably can overcome that, right, and still be the guy to win the MVP. But if you make me call one, I'm going to call that right now.
All right.
Yep. I think the good thing with Burrow, too, is that if he has like a flaw statistically, it's that he takes a lot of sacks.
Right.
People just don't really care that much about that in the MVP discussion, right? The same way that you would rather your flaw be that than Josh Allen's flaw throwing a ton of picks.
Right.
So, no, I think that makes sense. And I think he should be the second favorite behind Mahomes. My bet, and it's kind of the defensive corollary to the Mahomes MVP thing, where Mahomes is just too long every year.
Right.
Micah Parsons shouldn't be plus 600 to win Defensive Player of the Year. His 3 years in the league, he's finished second, third. He is the guy that has, I think, the highest pedigree of anyone, or at least he's right
Best
there with
defensive
Garrett
player
and
in football
Watt.
for me.
Yeah,
I'm
and
with
also
you.
the good thing with Parsons, if he's the most deserving candidate, he's absolutely going to win. It's not like Micah Parsons goes under the radar. He's been eerily consistent. He's been 13 and a half, 14 sacks. He passes every test that you would want from that type of player. He's been incredibly durable in his career. He's missed one game his entire career, and that was because he had COVID. So I think that he is a guy that, like, plus 600, that says he's a 14% chance to win Defensive Player of the Year. Micah Parsons is more than a 14% chance to win that award. So that would be my bet. I think that should be more like plus 400.
Ooh, I like it. All right, so we got a team and 2 players.
The transcendent players.
Anything with the Lions is basically what you're saying.
Yeah, Dan Campbell, Coach of the Year. Yeah, let me give you Jahmyr Gibbs, Offensive Player of the Year.
Who goes to the Super Bowl? Lions. He's got
that's
all
right.
Lions.
Aiden Hutchinson, Defensive Player of the Year. Those are all my bold predictions. Well, Drew, Jay.
I got to twist
ahead.
your arm. Just play one. Just play Super Bowl.
Just play Super
Lions
Bowl?
Super Bowl.
Yeah,
seriously,
Lions.
because NFC North's going to be tougher. But you saw the Lions go into San Francisco in the NFC Championship game last year, which tells you that team has the ability to go on the road if they have to in the playoffs and win. At least compete in those tough games. So don't overthink it. Super Bowl.
Okay.
Plus 1,200 right now. Sold.
Dude,
that is a
saw
bet
the
that
wad
will
of
be
cash
made.
you have in your pocket, so put it down.
Yeah, we're okay. I think
on,
it
all
has a $5 bill in
all
there
right.
right now.
I mean, this is awesome. I think we got to have you guys on probably before the season starts too.
Sure,
just
we'd love
hit
to
something like
recap
that
it,
at
yeah.
some point.
See where we stand
Yeah,
after
see where
all.
we stand. See what we evaluate during the preseason,
What
whatever else. And if
perceptions has
something else
changed,
jumps
yeah.
onto you, I appreciate Drew, Jay, you guys like lowering yourself to the Chris Simms Unbuttoned level,
Yep.
and come joining trash like me and Ahmed. That was very nice of
Exactly,
you
yeah.
guys. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank you for having us. It was
Love
always.
the plants, Drew.
Always.
Love the plant.
Love the plants. There's one plant you need to get better at growing, please. All right.
We got
Get
green
better at
plants
that
and
plant.
red plants.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I said pants. We don't know if Drew's wearing pants, so we do like the plants.
We
so,
don't.
yeah.
We don't know. We don't know. All right. Well, you can send him some red pants at some point,
Yeah.
just to make sure he's got some.
Hey, if the Lions win the Super Bowl and I make that bet, I will send Drew.
You're gonna. Yep.
a
Okay.
care package, a thank you
Let's see.
package.
Let's see. We'll see if Ahmed will make that bet. I don't know. He never swore in his life. This year he said 2 swears.
I did.
We're starting to wear
Yeah.
off on him. So
Uh-huh.
my dirty mouth and your dirty gambling habits. Maybe we could really just make Ahmed a total degenerate
Exactly.
before it's all
This
said
is
and
the
done.
year.
That's all I
right?
want.
All right, let's keep working, guys. Let's keep trying to make him a worse person and see what we can do from there. All right, seriously, Drew, you the man. Thanks so much. Jay, always, you the man. Good seeing you. Thanks for sitting with us. Ahmed, thanks for
do it.
driving the ship. All right, everybody, you know where to find us. You know where to find these guys, okay? Come check us out. Chris Simms Unbuttoned. And, of course, Bet the Edge with Jay Croucher and Drew Dinsick. Peace out, everybody. Enjoy it. Have a good summer. And clap it up.
Clap it up. Well done, everyone. Well done. Drew's like, do I have to clap?
Clap,
do I really
Drew.
have to clap? Are we doing that?
Yo, what's up? Thanks for watching, homies. You know it's the off-season, but there's no off-season with Chris Simms Unbuttoned. It's the NFL. It goes all year around, all right? So hit subscribe, please, to hear my thoughts on your favorite team, your favorite quarterback, and, hey, how this season might unfold as we get ready for the 2024 season. We got a better picture, clearer look now that the draft is over, free agency. We know who's playing quarterback for certain teams. So, again, thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe. Peace out, homies. Check you out soon.